Howdy! This degree planner tutorial is designed to help you complete your degree planner assignment in Howdy and will provide you with a few things to think about as you're starting the process. You can access the degree planner through either the icon at the top of your Howdy or also by clicking on the My Record tab. If you click on the Degree Evaluation tab in the planner once you have it open, you should see these progress bars demonstrated on the right that show you how much coursework you have remaining. Anything in green represents classes that you've already completed or are currently enrolled in. Anything in red means that there are missing classes. By the time you finish planning things out, all or most of the planner should be in green and yellow. This tool allows you to organize your remaining coursework and receive feedback on your planned semesters from advisors. Please note that you need to specify a semester for each and every class that you have to take between now and graduation. For example, if you are in the Degree Evaluation tab of the planner and have expanded one of the categories, such as the Core Business Knowledge area, you'll see something that looks similar to this. You'll need to specify what semester you plan to take any class that has a red no beside it. A few things to keep in mind here. Plan your lower level Core Business Knowledge classes first. Although some of the upper level classes list only 1 to 2 of these courses as prereqs, just because you can register for those classes early on doesn't mean that you should. Again, plan to complete the lower level classes first. The other thing you want to think about is balancing out your semesters as you plan them. For example, Finance 341 can often be a difficult class for a lot of students. So this might be a semester that you would want to also add an international elective or other classes that can help offset the difficulty of this course. Another good rule of thumb is that you should think about trying to avoid more than 2 CBK classes in the same semester if you can help it. As an agribusiness student, the best thing to think about here is planning backwards. For example, decide what semester you're planning to graduate and put your capstone classes in that semester. AgEc 317 is a prereq for these classes and has a lot of prereqs on its own, so you can plan that for the prior semester. We recommend keeping your statistics class, Business 203, and Econ 323 in separate terms. So we're now working backwards into how many semesters this is going to take to make sure that you're on track to graduate by your planned semester. AgEc 217 also has a lot of prereqs. So again, what we're doing here is just making sure that we're taking everything in the right order and at the right rate of progress to end up graduating in the semester that you want. Because again, if we're looking at things backwards, this would be the final semester. You would be at least 2 semesters out from graduation by the time that you're at AgEc 317, and so on and so forth. So again, we're just making sure that you're on track for your planned graduation date. One of the best resources as you work on your degree planner is the AgEc Student Handbook. This is available online if you Google TMU AgEc Handbook, and it will have 3 main areas that will be helpful for you with this assignment. There's a section on the agribusiness degree with a sample semester by semester breakdown for everything, a degree planning tips page, and even a section that will have terms and definitions to help you figure out what counts for each area. I do recommend reading through the entire book at some point just to make sure that you're familiar with everything about your degree, but these are the sections that will be the most beneficial to you as you're doing the degree planner. When it comes to choosing your core classes, it's important to know that not every science class is a core science, not every history class is a core history. To know what counts for these areas of the degree, you can search TMU Core Curriculum and look at the section that is a part of catalog.tamu.edu. Other things you'll want to look at is how you plan to work in your ICD and CD requirements. ICD stands for International and Cultural Diversity, while CD stands for Cultural Discourse. Basically, by the time you graduate, one class needs to have an approved international attribute, and one needs to have a thought-provoking discussion that's associated with it. If you don't select at least one class with each of these approved attributes within what you already have to do for the degree, you then have to add additional classes on top of the 120 hours to meet your requirement. So it's a lot more efficient to work these in through something like your core classes. Something else you'll want to think about here is if you have not completed your foreign language requirement at the high school level, you want to make sure that you're planning in those classes here as well. As a reminder, while it's an official assignment, the planner is an unofficial tool and it doesn't always put planned or completed classes in the correct area. Something that you have to pay attention to when filling the degree planner out is whether or not you're needing any adjustments. An adjustment happens when a class that you've taken or are taking meets a degree requirement, but it might need to be moved to that category by your academic advisor. There's sometimes reasons why we can't do this immediately, so if you see classes that you've already taken or have been told will count sitting in the work not applied area of the degree planner, this means that there might be areas that you don't need to plan classes for. So when in doubt, be sure to ask your academic advisor, or you can put a question in the comments section about this. So something else we want to think about here as we're working on the degree planner is the idea of potentially working in minors or certificates as you're planning everything out. To clarify what these mean, if you're unfamiliar with your terms here, your major is going to be your primary area of study, but a minor is going to be almost like a mini sub-focus of coursework that shows that you have a specific area of expertise. This shows on your transcript, but not on your diploma. A certificate is almost like a mini minor. Sometimes it's a smaller amount of hours for coursework. It can be standalone, it can be major dependent, but essentially you will most likely get a separate diploma for this. It's going to be a separate record on your account. But again, this is a way to show that you have expertise in a certain area. Since agribusiness doesn't have a lot of electives, I highly recommend that all students look at the minors and certificates list before doing the degree planner, just to see if there's something that you might want to add in. Sometimes if there's a lot of overlap between the requirements of a minor or certificate and what you already have to do for the degree, you can potentially complete additional items without adding time to graduation. So again, some of these also have to be declared before a student reaches a certain number of hours. So you also, again, want to look at this early just to make sure you're aware of all of your options. So let's say, for example, that we're taking a look at the agribusiness degree with a suggested breakdown for the semesters, and we're looking here at all of the classes that are circled in purple. These are areas that typically minors or study abroad credits or internships, different high-impact experiences can be used to meet existing degree requirements. So let's say, for example, that you were interested in working in a certificate in international trade and agriculture without adding any extra time to your degree plan. Well, if we're looking at this one, this has a lot of overlap with existing coursework requirements because AgEc 429 is required for both the certificate and for the degree. So when you take that class, you're checking off a box for both. AgEc 452 is on the approved list of international electives, but it can also go as a technical ag elective here because it would meet the requirements for either category. So you just have to decide where you want to plug that course in. AgEc 453 is also on the international electives list, so you could play that card there. And then let's say, for example, you took Geography 202 as your language, philosophy, and culture, and then you saved that last international elective space for Anthropology 205. There are other electives on the list for this particular certificate, but again, I'm just using these ones as suggestions for things. But you would be able to work in this whole certificate without adding any extra time to your planner if you still have these spaces open on your degree. So again, this is just something to think about. So in terms of a few frequently asked questions that I get from students, some people will ask, well, what if I just throw a few random classes on and hit submit? I mean, I did the assignment. Well, if your planner is so off track that we can't answer the corrections within 2 to 3 sentences for things, you will typically get your planner declined and then you have to refill it out again. Since there can be a lot of planners in line ahead of yours for approval, you really want to make sure that you don't do this because if you wait until too late, you might end up missing your pre-registration slot because your planner didn't get approved in time to get that hold removed before pre-registration started. So again, you want to make this as close as possible to what you think you want to do and as accurate as possible. Some people ask, well, what if I'm planning to take classes at an outside institution? That's perfectly fine. You will want to check with your academic advisor to make sure that you're planning correct classes at the outside institution, but for the sake of the planner, you just need to go to the Edit Plan tab and select the little transfer box next to those courses that you're planning to take elsewhere. In terms of the planner, things are not set in stone. You can change what semesters you want to take classes in, but it is a good idea to check with your academic advisor to make sure that you're not moving around prerequisites into the incorrect order, and by moving these classes, you're now off track for graduation by your planned date if you changed what semester the class was in. Some people also ask, well, what happens if I find another class option that I like and I want to trade out things on my degree planner? Again, definitely visit with your academic advisor and check and see, but the planner is not set in stone, and adding these classes to the planner doesn't even guarantee enrollment in the courses. What we're just saying is we're coming up with a theoretical plan that will get us to graduation by our planned date. So don't stress about this. We're just trying to make it, again, as close as possible to what we think we want to do. We can change it later. Sometimes people will ask, well, I put a course on my degree planner, but now I can't get into it. It's been approved. What's the problem? Again, this is just a plan, so make sure that you are not counting too much on some of the classes that you're putting in here. We are going to hopefully get into all of those classes, but sometimes a class that you've been thinking about might be full in the semester that you planned it for. So you might just have to rearrange things in the later semester and say, okay, well, I originally had this class for spring of 2025, but now I'm going to move it to fall of 2025 because it was full in the semester that I planned it for. Degree planner holds are not approved immediately on submission, so this is something, again, that you want to do early. It can take 2 to 4 weeks for a planner to be approved, depending on how late you're submitting it and how many planners are in line ahead of yours. So again, make sure that you get this done in a timely manner, just so that you don't run into any issues with registration or things like that. Once your degree planner has been approved, you'll get feedback with suggested changes for your degree plan from your advisor. So be sure to read all of the comments, because again, just with the planner being approved, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect as it stands. Once you've made the changes that were suggested, you don't have to resubmit your degree plan immediately for approval. The planner is an annual assignment, so you will have to submit it at least once a year. But if you've already gone through the approval process once for that term, you don't have to resubmit it, and you can just make an advising appointment to bring it in and discuss any changes or feedback that you want. If you've done a really good job with filling out the planner, sometimes the degree planner will let you have the chance to self-approve. This is a great option because it means that the hold gets removed immediately for your account. It doesn't have to go to an advisor for review. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes the planner doesn't put courses in the right spot. So even if you get the option to self-approve, it's still a really good idea to make sure that you visited with your academic advisor just to make sure that everything is on track. So your last checklist that you want to think about here as you're filling out the degree planner is look at the prereq check tab before you submit. This will flag any classes that you've planned in the incorrect order, and then you can go in and check and make sure that everything is correct. You'll also want to check the Edit Plan tab and make sure that you've clicked the box next to your Writing Intensive courses and selected UWRT, which stands for Writing Intensive. For this degree, this is going to be for AGEC 117 and AGEC 429. Something else that can be helpful before you submit is make sure that you've included any comments. So for example, if you are thinking about adding a specific minor, or if you have classes that you've taken at an outside institution and the credits haven't been sent to A&M yet, anything that you want your advisor to be aware of, be sure to include that in the comment section. It just helps us have a little bit more context for everything. And also, most important, remember to click submit. Just filling out the classes on the degree planner doesn't put it in our queue for approval, so you have to actually hit submit for it to go to an academic advisor so that we can go through the process to get that hold approved and cleared.